They just pointed and said,
The study session for the Aurora City Council for Monday, August 21st is called to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Kaufman?
Here.
Councilmember Bergen?
Here.
Councilmember Coombs?
present.
Mayor Pro Tem Gardner?
Here.
Councilmember Drinsky?
Here.
Councilmember Lawson?
Here.
Councilmember Marcano?
Present.
Councilmember Medina? Councilmember Medina? I can see you're here. We just can't hear you. Okay. Councilmember Mario?
Present.
Councilmember Senberg?
Here.
And Councilmember Zvonek?
Here.
There's no mayor updates. Are there any issue updates? Seeing none, is there any objection to moving the consent calendar forward? Item number 2A through 2J. Seeing none, the consent calendar, item number 2A through 2J will move forward. Items from the policy committee, 3A, CNX site historic landmark nomination, Scott Williams, museum supervisor.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to get our presentation ready to go. Hold on one moment. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Again, thank you, Mayor, for the introduction. My name is Scott Williams. I am the director of the Aurora History Museum and Historic Sites, and it's a pleasure to present to you this evening. The purpose of our agenda item is to propose the scenic site for City of Aurora landmark designation and pass a resolution to approve the site. This study session presentation is to bring knowledge and awareness of the site and its history to all Aurora residents and to visitors to the site. Also to bring in focus the robust archaeological collections discovered and retrieved from the site during archaeological survey and excavations conducted in the past. These collections, which are stored here at the Aurora History Museum, are owned by the state of Colorado and administered by the State Office of Archaeology. The scenic site has yielded abundant data that provide valuable insights into the lifeways of indigenous inhabitants of the Plains woodland tradition and the early ceramic period, which dates, just so that you know, from AD 150 to 1150. And that's indicative of eastern Colorado. Because much of the site remains unexcavated, it is likely to yield additional archaeological data on the pre-contact era in this region. So it's at this point in the presentation that I'd like to hand it off to, we have two commissioners from the Historic Preservation Commission, Aurora's, and we have Dr. Gordy Tucker Jr. and Mr. Todd McMahon here. But I'd like to hand the presentation off to Dr. Tucker here to provide a little bit more information about the site.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm privileged to talk to you this evening about our recommendation for the landmark nomination of the scenic site. The scenic site, I think, provides another link in the history of Aurora. Our story extends beyond 1891 and 1870s, early 1800s, even beyond 1540s. It extends to 12,000 years ago. Humans have lived in eastern Colorado. And the scenic site, if it is accepted as a historic landmark, will be our third archaeological site next to the Tollgate Creek archaeological site and the Smoky Hill Trail site. And I think it provides an important link in that history. And I would encourage you to consider that. You have in front of you all of the details about the site, and I won't belabor that point. And looking at where the location is on the southwestern edge of what is now the Aurora Reservoir, formerly known as Seneca Dam, Seneca Reservoir, then since renamed Aurora Reservoir. And you have other photos of the site where it is located today, and the artifacts that were collected from the site have enhanced our understanding of the importance of the site. And also they are housed here at the Aurora History Museum, and they're being entered into the database, and they will be available for researchers, scholarly researchers, private researchers, to study and to understand what has happened in Aurora's history, prehistory. I think that's all I need to say. Turn it over to my colleague, Todd.
Thank you. My name is Todd McMahon, and it's a pleasure to talk with you this evening, council members. I was actually at the site back in 1989 as part of a semester-long excavation that occurred after the consulting excavation firm had completed their work. And through the University of Colorado at Denver, we actually found evidence that the occupation actually extended further west from where Powers Elevation, the consulting firm, had initially done their work. So there is indeed evidence that the site is still intact on its west side.
And with that said, really the experience that that Todd brings to our presentation, I think also could provide some questions after the presentation. But I'd like to provide a conclusion and then offer you some time for some questions. And the Seneca site has the potential to be visited by many visitors to the Aurora Reservoir, and will be utilized by the museum and historic sites, also the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Department. We've talked with them, and of course, Aurora Water staff. And really, I think that there's an opportunity here for education and exhibition. In addition, as Gordy and Todd has said, the Seneca collection, the actual artifacts, this will become more accessible, as they've said, to the public and to scholars for research purposes. And that's the great opportunity for us to interpret and display these collections. Museum staff, volunteers, we look forward to putting some of these significant collections on display here at the museum for public education. So, I mean, it's at this point, the Aurora History Museum and Historic Sites, we seek from you, the council, approval of the Seneca site as Aurora's 33rd city landmark, and move this proposal forward to the regular city council meeting for the mayor's signature. This concludes our brief summary for this agenda item, and please let us know if you need any further clarification of the site or any aspect of the nomination. At this time, we'd love to take your questions. Thank you very much.
Questions of staff? Seeing none, is there any objection to moving item number 3A forward? Seeing none, item number 3A will move forward. Congratulations. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Item number 3B, credit card fees presentation, Greg Baker.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Kaufman and Council. This is a continuation of a discussion that occurred last year regarding the impact that credit card processing fees are having on operational budget for Aurora Water. So, excuse me. So as many of you know, we use a third-party credit card processor called Paymentus. Paymentus manages the credit card payments with Visa per Visa rules, and they have a very stringent set of rules. We are under the utility rate structure there. There are multiple rates. Retailers, for example, have multiple rates, whether they're online or order or a combination of both. but we're under the utilities side of it. In the past, credit card fees were considered the cost of doing business as a convenience to our customers, and they weren't as onerous as they are today. In the past couple of years, there has been a substantial increase in the use of premium cards. Those that result in miles for airline miles, point systems for merchandise, or more popular are, of course, those cashback cards, which give you a percentage back and are highly promoted. The cost of those premiums are actually passed on partially through the credit card processing fee, and that is what's been increasing over the past couple of years. One thing that has not increased dramatically is, of course, our ACH or e-check, basically where you align your online payment system with your checking or savings account. Those have retained relatively inexpensive and manageable at this point. One thing to keep in mind here is that under the Visa rules, and there are a set of rules that are called the Visa rules, debit cards are considered to be treated as a credit card because if Visa touches the card, whether it's a credit card or a debit card, or even a gift card, Visa charges a substantial fee for that. One thing a lot of people are not aware of is that there are also debit cards that are premium debit cards with some of the higher end accounts that you can get points back or even miles on certain debit cards depending upon your provider. So all that has resulted in increased costs over time. In 2022, Aurora Water paid about $1.4 million in credit card fees. We were anticipating that to go up. We had been told by our processor Paymentus that there would be an increase in the credit card fees. They're reviewed every year by Visa, and so they can result in increases. And we're expecting a substantial increase in that to the point that we'll be paying almost $2 million a year. Based on our conversation with council last year, we started negotiations with Paymentus to see if we can come up with a convenience fee model that would allow for folks to choose to use a credit card to pay their water bill, and they would pay a fee associated with that. That fortunately froze those discussions on fee increases at that time while we were in negotiations. One thing to keep in mind throughout this whole process is that we pay so little for the e-check or ACH that we would continue to absorb those costs. You can see we're at $64,000 in 2022. That's very manageable. Even if we were to double that or increase our participation in those e-checks, it would still be a very manageable expense for us. So that would always be at no cost to our customers. So the new model that we negotiated with Paymentus is that all credit card payments would be paid directly by the customers. These fees, these convenience fees would be paid to Paymentus, not to Aurora Water. It'd be $1.95 for all residential accounts and $7.95 for all non-residential accounts. So that's our three other classes: our irrigation accounts, our commercial accounts, and our multifamily accounts, which tend to be much higher bills. And you'll see in a minute why that actually works very well for them. And again, as we said, we would absorb the fee for e-check and ACH, and we encourage most of our customers to go that direction if they still want to do an online or pay by phone payment. There are still many options for our customers, even if they don't want to do an online payment or pay by phone. They can still pay. There are several cash options they can pay through Western Union. There is a $1 convenience fee associated with that is charged by Western Union, again, not by Aurora Water. That's available through grocery stores, obviously, Walgreens, 7-Elevens, Walmart. There's also you also have the ability to pay in cash or check here at the cashier's office at the Aurora Municipal Center. And we have payment kiosks that will be at our new SEAM facility when we move in there in November, as well as the ability even to pay cash at that location. We'll have a kiosk in the lobby so you can pay cash in the lobby during our operating hours, our open hours, as well as have access to the online system through this kiosk. So if you want to stop in and make a payment there, you can come here to AMC to use a computer in our customer service hub on the first floor. That's always available to everybody. One thing that's also not impacted by this are third-party bill pay options. Doxo, for example. Many banks have a bill payment option with their checking accounts. Even Quicken, if you still use Quicken, and I do, it has a bill payment option in there. They have their own fee structures associated with that. They are not impacted by this, but rather they're impacted by how that particular vendor chooses to operate. Just for some background, because we get these questions a lot. Right now, we have over 95,000 individual accounts in Aurora. The vast majority of those are residential, as you can see by this breakdown. Of those 95,000, 46% of those accounts still pay by check. I'm a little surprised to see it was that high, but it still is. Of the rest of those 95,000, 5% pay cash, and only 1% uses Western Union. Those typically are folks who don't have accounts, banking accounts, or are suspicious of banks. Of the 48% that do pay online or through our phone system, that'd be 48%, they're paying through Paymentus. So of those, 47% of the folks that pay Paymentus pay through the ACH or e-check option, 53% pay through credit cards. One area we'll have to target, obviously, with those who pay through Paymentus are those who have auto pay accounts. And we'll have a very robust communications protocol in here to let people know that these convenience fees are now going to be in effect. You see we have 34,000 auto pay accounts. Again, vast majority of those are residential, but actually a fairly substantial amount of our multifamily and commercial accounts, as well as our irrigation accounts, those are well more than half of those will pay through auto pay. Even our hydrant accounts, which are used for construction water, for compaction and soil mitigation, have an auto pay account. Of those auto pay accounts, those 34,000, 2/3 of them are on credit card right now. It's a convenient way to pay. And there may be still a reason for them to continue that, and I'll show you why. So these are our average bills. When we talk about average, we talk about mean, because anytime I talk about average, somebody's coming up and saying my bill's higher. Typically, yes, in the summertime, you see 4 bills, maybe 5 in a long, dry, hot summer, maybe 5 bills that are above the average or above $100 even, but most of them are well below that. So the impact of the fee on residential bills would be almost a break even at that point. $93 is your average, again, mean bill. It says you have a 2% cashback card. You want to continue to use that. You're paying $1.95 to get a little less than $2 back. The math may not work out there, but it depends upon your card and whether you get additional points that way as well. Where a credit card may make sense is for the non-residential side, our irrigation accounts, our commercial accounts, our multifamily accounts, where they're paying substantially more than that $100 break even. Again, I'm using 2% cashback as kind of a model here because you see this advertised all the time. There are better terms out there on premium cards. So in these cases, these customers may choose to continue on the credit card and pay, in this case, $7.95 for a transaction, but they're getting back substantially more than that $7.95 in their rewards side. So just to demonstrate what other utilities on the Front Range are doing, Denver Water has an interesting system here where they're still going to continue to absorb the cost of it. A larger system, their costs are either $1 or it can be 1.48% or $1.54 per charge, whichever is greater. They will always their credit card processor will charge a greater that fee. They're paying a little less on the e-check or ACH. Parker Water is doing what we're going to be doing, which is a hybrid model. What they charge a flat fee. They charge $4.50 for credit card fee, regardless of customer class or type. They do absorb their ACH or e-check. They pay a higher fee than we do at this point. Colorado Springs also has a hybrid model where they charge $1.85 for residential and $5.85 for commercial. And they absorb the commercial fee. These rates vary because every utility has a different vendor and a different ability to negotiate those fees based upon their size. So probably the biggest component of this new model is that we have to communicate this. It's going to take, these fees will take effect October 9th. That is the first billing cycle for October. So I think many of you had noticed we've already started our outreach on social media as well as in News Aurora. We started it last year when council gave us direction to pursue this as a model. I want to let people know that this was coming, and we want to let people know that we would continue to absorb the e-check or ACH and encourage people to take that path. We've seen a substantial uptick in our enrollment with ACH. It has settled down a little bit here, but now that we know what the cost is going to be, I think people are starting to re-engage again. So we're encouraging people to use that e-check or ACH whenever possible as a cost savings here. So obviously we're putting this in our water bill message, and when we're putting this in News Aurora. You've seen the social media advertising. We're doing a bill stuffer, which is something we rarely do. And those are those little annoying third page inserts that fall out of your bills quite often, especially if you get an Excel bill, they fall right out. We don't do those very often because, frankly, I don't think they're that effective if you use them on a monthly basis. But if you use them once a year, which is about their cycle on this, they do get your attention. Obviously, on our website, we're changing our customer payment portal or customer service portal, so it has a broad message that tells you that this is coming. Today, we changed the message on our phone pay by phone system, so it warns people that this is coming several months out. Our customer service reps, every time they answer the phone, they're mentioning to people that this is coming. And something that's going to be new for us is, since we are in our second year of having a new online portal system, we are going to start doing email blasts to our customers. We've been very careful not to do too many emails to our customers through that system because we don't want to be viewed as spam. So hopefully that catches everybody's attention, especially those auto pay customers. And then as a last resort, in the last couple weeks before this kicks in, we're going to start sending out texts to those same people who have a registered account on our Spry Engage customer portal system. Again, something we avoid doing because we don't want people to ignore us. If they see a message coming from us, they want us to pay attention to that. So with that, obviously, this is for information only, but I'm obviously open to questions at this point, and I suspect there may be a couple questions on this one.
Questions to staff?
Mayor.
Councilmember Sundberg, yes.
Greg, thank you.
Sure.
What is bank charging us currently for an ACH charge?
30 cents. So
Just
that
30
doesn't
cents?
change. Yeah, so yeah, it doesn't change at all. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for the presentation, Greg.
Thank you very much.
Item number 5A, 151 Potomac Street Greenhouse Lease Agreement. Councilmember Murillo.
Thanks, Mayor. I will just do a quick reintroduction. We started this conversation late last year at one of our budget meetings around renovating the greenhouses that the city owns and that are currently just storing equipment and not being used to their fullest and highest potential. I'm just excited that we're finally at the point where we're revisiting this conversation. I know there's been some kind of back and forth and some requests from this body to continue to get more information, and hopefully we're able to share how far we've come and how this proposal has gotten stronger each time we've come back for more information. So I don't know if I can say much more that the presenters can't do justice probably better than I can. So I'll pause there and defer to our presenters, or if staff wants to make an introduction as well.
Hector Reynoso.
Hi, good afternoon, Mayor, council members. My name is Hector Reynoso. I'm the manager of the Real Property Services Division in the Public Works Department. at the city of Aurora. We do have some slides prepared for y'all this afternoon or this evening. They are part of your backup. I will share them on my screen here. Let me know when y'all can see my screen.
Okay.
Perfect. So the city owns the property located at 151 Potomac Street. It's immediately adjacent to the central facility across the Highline Canal. You can see a visual aid here as Exhibit A on the picture. 151 Potomac Street does consist of an administrative building and 3 greenhouses um, with a total land area a little over an acre. The total rentable area for the greenhouses is approximately 7,600 square feet. Each of the greenhouses does have a high level of deferred maintenance. Currently, staff is using them for seasonal growing, and capital maintenance will be necessary to renovate the major systems and the components. And to give you an idea of what each one of the greenhouses looks like, we've got these slides prepared. So the first greenhouse is approximately 3,600 square feet. It is detached from the administrative building. You can see pictures here on the right side of the slide. The top picture is the inside of greenhouse number 1, and the bottom picture is the outside. All of that personal property will be removed. As you can probably tell from the pictures, the exterior, some structural items, the HVAC, the electrical, and the plumbing system will all require capital renovations. The greenhouses are to be leased as is, where is, with all faults, and the tenant will be required to maintain, repair, or otherwise modify the buildings after the city capital renovations have been completed. This is a slide depicting greenhouse number 2. Greenhouse number 2 is attached to the administrative building. It contains a total of approximately 4,000 square feet. You can see personal property there that will also be removed, and this building also requires major renovations to the exterior, the structural, the HVAC system, electrical, and plumbing system. Greenhouse number 3 was initially thought to be part of the lease. However, we have found that it is not going to be part of the lease, and so we will not be including greenhouse number 3 with the lease. As Councilmember Murillo mentioned, in fall of 2021, the budget workshop, council endorsed setting aside up to $350,000 for capital renovations to the greenhouses pending responses to the following questions. Is $350,000 enough to complete the repairs? What is the operational business plan for a nonprofit user? And what is the financial suitability of that proposed plan? And again, there will be no financial contribution from the city beyond the capital renovation costs. So in April, on April 29th, on April 11th, 2023, city staff solicited an RFP request for proposals in accordance with Business Policy Memorandum 4-14 to lease out city-owned property so that we could find answers to those 3 questions. The city posted the RFP on our website. We advertised it on the multiple listing service, or MLS, as well as LoopNet or CoStar, which also syndicates to some partner websites. On May the 10th, 29 days after we solicited the RFP, proposals were due at 3 p.m. The city received 1 proposal from Food Justice Northwest Aurora, or FJNWA for short. The proposal was evaluated based on the criteria that was identified in the RFP, and FJNWA was the top ranked proposal. FJNWA has over 15 years of experience in food systems, nonprofit, public health, and educational settings. They are highly skilled in program development, community engagement, and grant management and fundraising. FJNWA is a state-recognized nonprofit with a fiscal sponsorship through the AEOC, the Aurora Economic Opportunity Coalition. Correct me if I got that wrong. A fiscal sponsorship provides, legal counseling, legal counsel, accounting, HR services, board of directors, governing documentation, and even IRS filings for nonprofits such as FJNWA. That allows smaller nonprofits like FJNWA to focus on implementing the mission. In this case, it would be food production and the program here at the greenhouses. As part of after selecting the highest ranked candidate and initiating in conversations about how the lease would play out, FJNWA did reach out to Prospient. They are a greenhouse renovation company that has renovated and greenhouses across the entire country. They did provide us a construction estimate for capital repairs to all 3 of the greenhouses. The estimate came in at $390,000 actually to repair greenhouse 1 and 2 and bring it up to a condition that we can commence operations in January in greenhouse number 1. In an effort to keep the schedule or the project moving forward and have operations to commence in January, a tenant improvement allowance in an amount not to exceed $350,000 can be negotiated into the final lease agreement, which would be subject to City Council approval. And so the details of the proposal that we received are for a proposed 5-year initial term with the option to extend for an additional 5 years. The rental rate would be $1 a month or $12 a year. Again, FJNWA is a community-based organization that has state nonprofit status and a fiscal sponsorship with the Aurora Economic Opportunity Coalition, AEOC there. Again, that is intended to provide administrative and financial support to smaller nonprofits. The proposed operational business plan is for operations to commence in January in greenhouse number 1. Subject to the completion of renovations throughout the next 3.5 months. And then greenhouse number 2 would undergo renovations in 2024 and be online in 2025. Upon completion of the city renovations, FJNWA will assume all responsibility for maintaining the greenhouses. They did receive letters of support from each one of these partner agencies to include Denver Urban Gardens, Project Worthmore, AEOC, Delaney Farms, Pickens Technical College, Georgia Green Project, Village Exchange Center or Village Farm, Aurora Seed Farm, Rebel Marketplace, also known as Urban Symbiosis, and other local farmers. One incentive that the city will also receive is an allocation of 500 square feet in Greenhouse 1 for pros or other city programs to use for growing seedlings or even co-branding opportunities during programs and sales, excuse me. And any surplus starts that are not sold will be donated to the community and school garden programs throughout the neighborhood. And so to give the council more insight as to the proposed program, I would like to introduce Caitlin Matthews with Food Justice Northwest Aurora, or FJNWA, and Jenna Smith with Agro Eco Solutions to tell y'all more.
Okay, thank you so much, Hector. And thank you to the City Council members and to Mayor Kaufman for this opportunity to present on Cultivate Aurora, a community greenhouse project. My name is Caitlin Matthews. I'm the director at Food Justice Northwest Aurora. As Hector mentioned, we are a community-based organization, and we are registered as a nonprofit with the state of Colorado's Secretary of State. I have served as the project lead for the development of the Cultivate Aurora proposal, and I'm joined this evening by my colleague, Jenna Smith. Jenna, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you, Caitlin. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. My name is Jenna Smith, and I have a consulting company called Agro Eco Solutions that provides planning for regenerative food production and equitable distribution. I'll pass it back to you, Caitlin.
Thank you so much, Jenna. Hector, can we go to the next slide, please? So the City of Aurora greenhouses are a vital and valuable piece of infrastructure in the local food economy. However, they have not been meeting their full potential for over a decade. Through Cultivate Aurora, we will reactivate this dormant and underutilized asset to grow and distribute food-producing plant starts and perennials to Aurora's residents, Aurora farms, and organizations that serve Aurora. We will also provide education and training about urban agriculture and food production to the Aurora residents. Next slide, please. To reactivate the City of Aurora greenhouses and to launch and sustain a nonprofit greenhouse model, we spent several months developing a business plan, operations plan, and financial model. Our plans and models are based on extensive market and industry research, along with models that we created specifically for these greenhouses. So we created a productive capacity model for each greenhouse. We modeled sales revenue and grants revenue. We did a detailed analysis of costs for startup and annual operations, and we developed an educational program budget. Together, these three documents demonstrate financial viability via both sales revenue and grants revenue complementing one another. Next slide, please. The vision and model for Cultivate Aurora was created in conversation and collaboration with our fellow community-based organizations, farms, and educators here in Aurora. And these partners include Village Exchange Center, which operates Village Farm. Cultivate Aurora would be connected with both their farm and farm apprentice program, as well as connected to their food pantry program, through which they distribute locally produced food at no cost to residents. We also have partnered with Project Worthmore, which runs Delaney Farm out of the historic property here in Aurora. And this program, Cultivate Aurora, would also be connected with their refugee farming training program, food production, and their food share program. We've also collaborated with Denver Urban Gardens, which administers nearly 20 community gardens throughout Aurora and also offers programming that serves Aurorans. Another partner is Urban Symbiosis, which you might also know better through their affiliation with Rebel Marketplace, a community farmers market in Del Mar Park. And they are a micro farm here within Aurora. Additionally, Aurora Seed Farm is an innovative community-led project growing and distributing culturally adapted seed for our Aurora climate. Georgia Green Project is a community-led urban agriculture and coaching and education project. And we've also been in deep conversation with Pickens Technical College's horticulture program. So right here within our APS system, we have the opportunity for additional education and employment opportunities for the students and alumni of the Pickens horticulture program. Moving forward, these partners will continue to engage as program advisory partners, which is one way that we ensure that greenhouse production and programming continues to align with broader goals for food production and education in Aurora. Our partners will also continue to be technical advisory partners who form part of the greenhouse team's professional network. Our partners serve as sales and distribution partners to coordinate multiple points of sale and distribution throughout the Aurora community in the spring, summer, and fall. And these partners are also educational programming partners, which may be guest instructors and co-hosts of educational workshops and series. And lastly, and importantly, some of our partners will also be customers of greenhouse products. Next slide, please. So Cultivate Aurora offers many benefits to the Aurora community. One such benefit is that Cultivate Aurora will create full-time jobs in greenhouse production and educational programming, as well as additional seasonal and part-time positions in food production. We are especially excited about the opportunities to employ students and alumni within the network of the Pickens Technical College horticulture program. Another benefit is the increase of local food production. We know that this is important because Aurora has a really robust gardening and farming community, both at the home scale and in community gardens, as in nonprofit farms and small farms. By growing plant starts and distributing through these various channels, the food production impact of the greenhouses will be multiplied and amplified many times over. And by increasing local food production as a community will also increase fresh food access, especially in parts of the city where residents have to travel longer distances to reach full-service grocery stores and where specific varieties of produce are not available in any store. And importantly, the educational programming help to educate more community growers so that we continue to amplify and magnify the impacts of the greenhouses. We know through our resident outreach over the last year and a half that many residents are interested in urban agriculture, but lack the knowledge or prior experience to be successful in their own gardens. So through educational programming, we will ensure that the plants that go out from the greenhouses into the Aurora community will grow strong and produce an abundant harvest. Next slide, please. There are three main sales and distribution channels for the greenhouse products. The first and focal area is to the Aurora community directly. I've mentioned that we have a robust home gardening and community garden community, as is exemplified by the fact that we have an Aurora community garden network that brings people together across the city, from geographies all across the city. And we anticipate reaching in our first year 250 households in the first growing season and expanding this reach each year as we are able to expand into the second greenhouse. And we will use tiered pricing in order to be able to reach more folks and also be able to use supplemental nutrition assistance program benefits and double up food bucks as well to make these products more accessible. The second group is through farmer contract grows. So in addition to nonprofit farms like Village Farm and Delaney Farm, we have other small-scale growers within our city and in the East Metro area that don't have access to their own greenhouses. We are aware that there's unmet demand for plant starts and seedlings in the spring, summer, and fall, and we anticipate having contracts with 5 to 10 farms in the first year and continued growth thereafter, again, as we bring additional growing space into production. This is really important too because we're able to offer accessible prices to our partners and to farms where we know that food production is really critical, but also oftentimes not a high margin business opportunity. And then the third area is also our organizational and institutional partners who purchase plant starts at a larger scale and distribute them oftentimes through a no cost or pay what you can model. One example is Denver Urban Gardens administers the Grow a Garden program. They distribute garden kits at a pay what you can or sliding scale. Each kit includes about a dozen plant starts. And Denver Urban Gardens has already stated that they are excited and committed to buying as many plant starts from the Cultivate Aurora program as we can produce for them. And these plant starts already reach 200 households in Aurora and about nearly 2,000 households in the broader metro area. The greenhouses are critical infrastructure for the local food economy, and we have the potential to connect not only with residents and farms and organizations, but also through those residents, farms, and organizations with small businesses and food entrepreneurs here in Aurora. We've also factored into our model the opportunity to continue to produce native plants for the City of Aurora Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Department, and for Aurora Water's Waterwise Garden. I'm going to pass the mic to my colleague Jenna, who's going to speak a little bit more about the technical side of the greenhouses.
Thank you, Caitlin. Next slide, please. So just to provide a couple of examples of successful similar projects in the area, the nonprofit greenhouse model is a tried and true model used by multiple nonprofits in the metro area, including 3 that we interviewed during the development of Cultivate Aurora. In the metro area, 3 examples are Well Power, formerly known as the Mental Health Center of Denver at the Dahlia Campus for Health and Wellbeing, Groundwork Denver, and Grow House, all of which serve the communities in their direct vicinity. Aurora does not currently have any type of program like this to serve its residents, farms, and organizations, and that's why this project is so exciting for Aurora partners, since it is tailored to the Aurora community's needs. Next slide. Through the development of this project, we have identified Prospient, as Hector mentioned, as the company with the most experience that is best suited to complete renovations on the greenhouses. The Prospient team conducted a site visit, put together a scope of work for renovations, and is poised to initiate the project. Prospient is formerly known as Nexus, which was a greenhouse company, and Rough Brothers, which did more of the maintenance side of things. And together they have over 100 years of experience in the greenhouse industry. They are a full-service company whose capabilities include manufacturing, design, construction, structural engineering, and project management. Market segments that they address consist of commercial, institutional, retail, and vegetable production. They're considered a leading business within the ag tech industry that's known for their quality and integrity. They have a wide customer base with repeat business, and clients in Colorado include the Denver Botanic Gardens, CSU Extension, U.S. Department of Agriculture, Pickens Technical College, and the Dahlia Campus for Health and Wellbeing. Next slide. So these photos are examples of renovation projects that Prospient has completed across the country to give you a sense of their work. The photos highlight projects of similar scope and magnitude as the renovations of the City of Aurora greenhouses would need, including, for one, new glazing. So glazing is the translucent greenhouse covering material. It's often made out of polycarbonate, so that the walls and ceiling essentially. Renovations would also include updated heating, evaporative cooling, and ventilation systems. It would include a new environmental control system. So this is essentially the computer that controls all the equipment for heating and cooling. And it would also include new benches, which are the elevated tables where the plants sit. Next slide. And again, these are just some more pictures of Prospient renovation projects. Both Prospient and a structural engineer contracted by the City of Aurora have affirmed that the large greenhouses are structurally sound and merit the investment in renovation. Next slide. So this image was created by Morgan Schmell, a project coordinator from the Civic Canopy, who produced a proposal for the Aurora Growers Collective according to the outcomes of a community-led strategic visioning process. It offers us a preview of one of the greenhouses after it's been renovated and reactivated. As you can see, it will be a vibrant hub for food production and education. There's ample space on site that could be used for pop-up seedling sales to the community, and we anticipate holding workshops and classes within the larger of the two greenhouses, making sure it's ADA accessible and a welcoming hub to all citizens of Aurora. I'll pass it back to Caitlin now.
Thanks so much, Jenna. So we can go to the next slide as well. So we are committed to the success of this project for the benefit of the Aurora community. And to make this a reality, we will complete additional capital improvements above and beyond the City of Aurora's renovations, with a commitment of an additional $70,000 in capital improvements offered by our organization. We're especially interested in ensuring that the teaching greenhouse complies with ADA requirements for accessibility so that all Aurorans of all physical abilities can participate in classes and partake of the greenhouse offerings. We will assume responsibility for all startup, operations, programming, and maintenance costs for the duration of the lease. And we are really thrilled to share that this project has already gained significant traction and financial support for its innovation. We have secured grants from the Colorado Health Foundation, which has supported the research and development of this project from its inception. We also have already secured grants from Big Green, Centura Health, Food and Communities, and others. Next slide, please. So we really appreciate your time and attention and consideration for this innovative and exciting project, and we look forward to making it a reality. Thank you.
Thanks, Caitlin. And so the question for council is actually two-part. Does City Council support moving forward with the lease to FJ&WA for the greenhouses at 151 Potomac Street for a 5-year initial term with the option to extend an additional 5 years? And the second question would be, does City Council support staff moving forward with city capital repairs to the greenhouses?
Okay, to the first question about the lease, discussion on the lease.
Mayor?
Councilmember Bergen.
Thank you, and I thank you for the presentation. I had also met with, with the team as well, and also reached out to Village Exchange. in terms of trying to be responsible to our taxpayers and making sure that we're utilizing their monies effectively, I would propose that we reduce the 5-year lease term to a 3-year lease with the option to renew, just to ensure that that this particular program is successful and that we feel that we are utilizing those taxpayer dollars wisely as we move forward. And I would also propose with the 3-year lease an operator agreement, just with some language in it to protect the city.
Discussion for Councilmember Bergen is suggesting a 3-year lease agreement with an operator agreement. Is that correct, Councilmember Bergen?
Yes.
Discussion on Councilmember Bergen's proposal.
Mayor.
Councilmember Maria?
Yeah, I just wanted some clarification on the operator agreement. I think, I think 5 years is more time for the group to get going. I think that 3 years could be a reasonable stopping point and check-in point for the team. I don't know what the purpose of the operator agreement would be, and there's no operator agreement in front of us. So I'm hesitant to kind of blindly agree to something that doesn't have anything.
Mayor?
Councilmember Bergen.
Yeah, and I did talk to some staff about the operator agreement. Obviously, this was an idea that I did not completely flesh out. Obviously, we don't have a sample of an operator agreement in front of us, but I think we could get some language to council quickly. I think just really some protections. I mean, there are some in the lease agreement, obviously, as well, but just things like restricting political activity and making sure that we are, the operator agreement would state some of the goals for the greenhouse and for sustainability into the future. I think possibly even having a annual operating budget would be included in the operator agreement. So not, I mean, just pretty basic, but just some protections.
So, council member, this is Hector Reynoso. I understand the term of the desire to have a separate operator agreement. Would it be acceptable to the council if we incorporated terms that are typically found in an operator agreement that are maybe beyond a lease agreement term into the lease agreement to capture the concept of restricting political activity, setting goals for sustainability, requiring performance metrics be provided perhaps on an annual basis and things like that?
I think that would be acceptable to me. I don't know how my colleagues feel about that.
Mayor, I just have a question.
Councilmember Combs.
So with respect to restricting political activity, I assume you mean on the site, not that the member organizations would all be prevented from any political activity, nor that the individual staff or other people are restricted from political activity, because that seems like that would be a First Amendment violation.
Mayor?
Councilmember Bergen.
Yeah, I think what I had some hesitation because I had looked at the website and some things that seemed to be much more political activism. And so my ask is that we put in some language to restrict political activity that basically would be utilizing the greenhouse and the operations for that activity. I mean, if they're doing political lobbying that is to the benefit of food production and not, I don't know how to phrase it, but if they're doing some lobbying that we would find acceptable, maybe that would be a different point that could be reviewed by cities. So no, I don't think there should be political activism in the greenhouse by anybody.
Mayor?
I'm sorry, who's?
Coombs again.
Councilmember Combs.
So just to clarify, you're saying specifically in the greenhouse. I just want to clarify that you're not asking that all organizations and individuals associated with the greenhouse refrain from any lobbying or activism.
No, I'm talking
Okay.
about greenhouse operations and making sure that what we're allowing them to do within the greenhouses is strictly for greenhouse food production operations and not for other activities. So I don't know if Hector and the attorneys could draft the language to make.
We can absolutely work with legal to craft language regarding political activity and activism, and we'll make sure that that's legal. I think other terms of the lease regarding use and restricting use to simply plant starts and plant growth is certainly something we can clarify in the lease. And again, we'll do that with legal's guidance.
Right, and then just the annual operating budget.
Mayor.
Councilmember Mario.
Yeah, I appreciate staff's recommendation on incorporating that. I know that I'm open to that being included in the lease. I just wanted to just remind everyone on since this group is a registered nonprofit organization, a 501c3, they're not allowed to do particular political work. So I just wanted to be clear that just by their nonprofit status, they aren't allowed to do some of that political work. So I also just want to assure folks just from the very just structure, they wouldn't receive that 501c3 nonprofit status if they engage in certain type of activities. So just for the public's awareness, and hopefully that also addresses some of the concerns that Councilmember Bergen brought up.
And then Mayor,
Councilmember Bergen.
just to clarify, any operational costs would never fall on, excuse me, fall on the city and the taxpayers. We're talking about solely the 350,000 investment in improving the greenhouse, the two greenhouses, which would remain a city asset, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so is there further discussion to the first question? Does City Council support moving forward with a lease to your organization?
Mayor.
Councilmember Combs.
So, and I just wanted to clarify too that in the presentation it talked about growing and operations, but also education. So I want to make sure that whatever operator agreement, while it's limiting the activities, that it doesn't limit out the educational component.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Reynoso, did you have something?
No, I was just agreeing with council member.
Okay, so if I understand it, then so it's a 3-year lease agreement instead of a 5-year lease agreement, but then there with an option to extend to what, additional 5 years, Councilmember Bergen?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any objection? Seeing none, then that's how we'll move forward. The first question will be 3-year initial term lease with an option to extend for 5 years. And some of the qualifiers that Councilmember Bergen had mentioned to be included in the lease agreement. And the second question then, does City Council support staff moving forward with city capital repairs to the greenhouses? I think that's the $350,000 discussion. I'm sorry, who's?
Jurinsky.
Councilmember Jurinsky.
Yeah, I just want to talk about this equitable solution, since this is the taxpayers' money from all over the city that will go to fund this. I'm just worried, we talked about parts of the city that don't have access to grocery stores. I think I hear out of Ward 2, and maybe the Ward 2 councilman wants to chime in on this as well. All I hear is the need for grocery stores in Ward 2, especially the eastern part. I would like to know specifically, how does this benefit the farthest eastern Aurorans in this equitable solution?
Mayor, is that
Councilmember
something that the food justice team can answer?
Could the food justice folks answer that question?
Yes, thank you. And thank you for your question, Councilmember Jurinsky. So thank you for highlighting the far eastern part of Aurora through our outreach and community engagement, resident conversations over the last year and a half. Certainly the eastern area of the city has been highlighted as an area where it's a longer distance to travel to a full service grocery store, which has uh, options, a diversity of fresh food options, staple goods, etc. So really the design of Cultivate Aurora is intended to help equip Aurora residents from all geographies of the city with both the knowledge and skills, as well as the resources to increase food production in their neighborhoods. So whether that's a home garden, a balcony garden, community garden, container garden, and there are community gardens in the far eastern area of Ward 2, both some that are within the Denver Urban Gardens network and others that are independent of that network. Some are affiliated with faith groups or neighborhood groups. But Cultivate Aurora would seek to promote our opportunities, our educational programming across the city and attract interested residents who want to learn how to grow more, stronger, with a better harvest in their neighborhoods across the city. So certainly the opportunities are open. We would work to publicize the educational programming, the plant sales and distribution to areas particularly that aren't within a close distance to grocery stores.
Mayor, I have a couple more questions.
Councilmember Jaworski.
So your name is Food Justice for Northwest Aurora. So how do you plan on advertising to the entire rest of the city?
Sure. May I also take that question?
Please.
Thank you, Mayor Kaufman. And thank you, Councilmember Jurinsky, for this additional question. It is true, our organization's name refers to the northwestern area of the city, and that has to do with the history of the organization. It is where the idea for doing this work was born. And certainly we have opportunities to reach beyond that sector of the city. Presently, we do a lot of promotion through social media, through our newsletter. These are all obviously digital forms that can reach across the miles across our city's broad expanse. And as we launch Cultivate Aurora, we would also continue to use new avenues for carrying this message. One of the best ways for us to reach existing gardeners and potential new gardeners is through the Aurora Community Garden Network, which brings together folks through the city, across the city, who are engaged with community gardens, that we would promote the educational programming, the sales and distributions of seedlings and plants. Because we really know that while, yes, we can reach people digitally, one of the best ways to reach people is through word of mouth and relationships. So Aurora Community Garden Network is one example of where we will continue to build relationships with Aurora residents and expand through word of mouth and through printed materials, through digital materials, through advertising, boosting these offerings on social media. We're able to boost them in specific zip codes, for example, if we know we're not reaching certain zip codes. So we have many opportunities to continue to promote, publicize, and increase the visibility of these programs.
Mayor?
Councilmember Jaworski.
Yeah, another thing that stood out to me is it was mentioned that, this will be helping food entrepreneurs in Aurora. Does that mean restaurant owners?
May I also take this
Please
question?
Please.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councilmember Jurinsky. So we think that there are many opportunities to reach all sorts of different types of businesses. Restaurant owners could potentially be interested in sourcing some of their food from local growers. So if Cultivate Aurora's greenhouses are producing those plant starts, and then our local growers, farms are producing food, then that is a product that could eventually reach food entrepreneurs, be they caterers, small businesses, restaurants, etc.
Further questions or comments?
Mayor Jurenski.
Councilmember Drinsky.
Yeah, I think for something like this, for me personally, the second part of this question, $350,000 of taxpayers' money, I just don't see that as being good stewards of taxpayers' money. I'm okay with the lease and the terms that Councilmember Bergen laid out, but I think there are plenty of grant funding opportunities to fund this. I think there are plenty of other ways to get funding for this than putting this on the backs of the Aurora taxpayers. I do not see in any way how this will be beneficial to the entire city of Aurora. I cannot support the city capital repairs. I can support the lease.
Further questions or comments?
Mayor Sundberg.
Councilmember Sundberg and then Councilmember Murillo.
I feel more comfortable with the 3-year lease term initially, just see how things go. To be frank, though, when I saw your website, there was 1 or 2 things in your guiding principles that took me by surprise. It said the inequitable modern industrial food system is the intended product of a colonizing and racist system. It was built on stolen land with stolen labor and continues to exploit many in the food system. My parents worked on farms. My grandparents worked on farms. Wheat, corn, dairy, worked their butts off at high risk, not knowing if a crop will fail. These were not racist people. They were doing their best to help their families survive and provide food to anyone, everywhere. So that rubs me the wrong way. I hope that stays off the property and any affiliation with our city. I hope this can be politically neutral in that fashion. And I hope you just understand where I'm coming from.
Further questions or comments?
Mayor.
Sorry, Councilmember Murillo, did you have something?
It's Coombs.
Yeah, Coombs.
Okay, I thought you did. Councilmember Coombs.
So I just wanted to be clear as far as the investment from the city, that's into a city capital resource. So if the folks were owning the resource, then they could probably get grants for it. I don't think that entities are going to give a non-City of Aurora entity a grant for City of Aurora capital repairs. And I think it is a good investment for all of the economic return that it is going to provide in terms of food production for a variety of stakeholders in our city. It's also an opportunity to partner with Aurora Public Schools, which we've talked a lot about really wanting to go ahead and do in a program that does serve youth and provide them with vocational opportunities and opportunities. And kids who go to Pickens are from all over the city. And those vocational opportunities are part of what is going to help us keep folks out of trouble, keep folks out of difficult situations. And so I think we should take every opportunity that we can to partner.
Further questions or comments?
Mayor, I'm still talking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Can you not hear
cut
me?
out Councilmember Coombs. Just
okay.
So
We just
you're coming and broken in a little bit.
Okay, then I'll stop. Thanks.
Okay. Further questions or comments?
Mayor.
Councilmember O'Connell.
All right, thank you, sir. I just wanted to add that Food Justice Northwest Aurora's work can and I think will benefit the entirety of the city. I know that we have a community garden in Ward 4 near where we're going to have some affordable housing built in the near future, and I'm certain that these folks are going to be able to work with that community garden to ensure that our new neighbors here in Ward 4 are going to be able to learn how to grow their own food. And frankly, addressing food deserts and teaching people to grow their own food is something that's really important, I think, for a lot of our residents to learn, or for all of our residents to learn, if we're trying to be a more self-reliant city in the future. So I strongly support this. I want to thank everyone for coming to a compromise on this, because I'm very excited for this to move forward.
Further questions or comments?
Mayor, just Murillo.
Councilmember Murillo.
Yeah, I just want to echo the comments made. I do think that there is some far-reaching benefits that could come to the city. And I appreciate that this has been very Aurora-centric. A lot of the partners having such a strong, if not based out of Aurora, having a really strong presence in Aurora, serving Aurora. And so I know that was a really big component of the RFP. And I just encourage and ask my council colleagues for their support to move this forward.
Further questions or comments?
Mayor Jurenski.
Councilmember Jurenski.
It's obvious to me that this is going to pass. So I look forward to your outreach, specifically to people in my area, because I will be coming and I will be taking gardening lessons in these greenhouses.
Good.
Okay, further questions or comments? Seeing none, is there any objection to moving forward with the $350,000 for capital repairs?
I object, Jurenski.
Jurenski, further objection?
Zavonic.
Further objection? Seeing no further objection, the $350,000 for capital repairs to the greenhouses will move forward. Seeing no further business before the Aurora City Council, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
It's time to tell you, baby, it's time.